Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone's doing well. And today I just want to talk about 5 things that I wish I knew before quitting alcohol. It's a lovely day here in Edinburgh, and can't actually believe that the summer's nearly over. Absolutely gutted, but feeling good, staying alcohol free, and yeah, let's go on with the five. I, rec- I actually can't think about how many times that I decided to actually quit alcohol in the first place. I used to actually smoke when I was younger as well. Back in the good old days, 20 years ago, I remember the office, very kind of macho atmosphere. I worked in the oil and gas, and yeah, although there was, like, say, was a lot of males and females there, it was just a complete different dynamic. I thought it was brilliant, to be honest. Everyone, great banter, great everything. You're in the office 5 days a week, but you made the most of it, and you could kind of get away with more. There was pints on a Friday and end of month payday beers and everything like that. And I remember even smoking when we used to smoke. There was always like 8 or 10 people that sat in your little kind of area, and I remember every time somebody went out for a cigarette, probably six, seven, 8 people got up with you, and you went out for a smoke. And I remember with smoking that I must have tried 100 times to stop. Finally did it, and I think it was the same with alcohol. It's quite actually different because with smoking, I don't ever really feel ill. There's no hangovers. Um, nothing like that. It's a completely different way of quitting. Where I think with alcohol, and there's no real social pressure to stop smoking. I think once you were like, "Oh, I'm stopping smoking," everyone was quite behind you. But with the alcohol, as we all know, there's the social pressures, etc. And you wake up one day a week, probably with a really bad hangover, and that kind of gives you that, oh, I'm never doing this, never doing this again. And oh, I honestly can't remember how many times. It must be hundreds of times I tried to quit alcohol. And there's just some things I wish I'd known, which I'll go through just now. There's lots more, but maybe I'll do some more in another video. But just go through 5 things that I think that there's certainly things that I wish I'd known before I quit. So the first thing is that it's a lot more than willpower. That's number one. When every time I was quitting, I just thought I was able to. I just had to kind of get through it, so to speak. Just pace the corridor at night. Just get to day two, get day two, and if I'm really struggling, right, go out for a walk. And you hear that a lot, in some of the other YouTube channels. People are just like, why don't you go out for a walk? Like that kind of solves everything. But it doesn't really. And, you can end up walking by a pub, walking by an off license liquor store, and that's you screwed pretty much. And yeah, in the beginning, that's what I thought it was, just like I say, trying to get through it, Xing off the days on a calendar, you'll get there. But there's a lot more to it, and I think there's a lot more preparation you need to do, and I think they totally underestimate the importance of getting into a routine and having a kind of strategy around that. I've mentioned in other videos with the amount of time you have, and I think you really need to get in a routine, and not just any routine. I'm not meaning go out for 10 walks a day, but you really need to fill your routines with something really productive. And that can be, reading, taking up crafts, going hill walking, studying for your degree or whatever, and really regimentally stick to that, because you tend to just default back to the thinking of, "Oh, I'm just going to go to the pub and I'm just going to get a few beers from the shop and come back." And it is one thing I really knew. And I think that's one of the reasons I actually failed so many times, because, like I say, it was just wake up on the Sunday, for example, absolutely dying Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, maybe just feel awful all week. Then you feel better, and you're back on it again, back in the routine, and then you're out again the Friday night. As I mentioned in previous videos, I was just a kind of quintessential binge drinker, I guess, that many people my age are. Uh, but I failed because I just didn't have a strategy in place to do the routine. So if you're thinking about drinking, or you've just stopped drinking, or even if you're quite far in the journey, start a routine, start writing down what you'll do, start a strategy as well, and just try and stick to that. And it's definitely a big reason why I didn't succeed in the past. Like I say, it's just not enough to just try and trudge through the day and kind of, you know, somehow get through until the next day, because one day you'll end up failing. Um, Another thing on point one there, quitting, did just I thought was more than willpower, is to have some support around you. I think that you ideally just tell maybe one person or two really close people and just be honest with them that you're really, really struggling. Preferably not somebody who's like a drinking buddy or a mate down the pub, because they'll probably be gutted that they're losing their main drinking partner, their main buddy. And just tell someone like maybe your partner, or somebody maybe you work with every day that doesn't drink, maybe, or just not a big drinker. And just, you don't need to spill all the beans about everything, but maybe just say, if you're going to give it a go, or if you trust them really, really well, then just tell them the truth, especially if it's your partner. You're just done with it, you're not happy, you're not getting anything done, you're anxious. And you know and like I say, that's just another thing that I didn't really do before. A bit different 20 years ago. I don't think, you're really encouraged to open up. But I think, doing in hindsight, like say, the willpower is not alone, and maybe even doing the strategies and routine isn't, enough for some people. You need that person to just phone when you're struggling. And I get text messages from friends, who are sitting there twiddling their thumbs on a Friday night, just needing that bit of support. A reminder, just you're doing well. Think how awful you'll feel in the morning. You'll feel like you've let yourself down. So that's on point one. Like I say, it's just more than willpower. I think just get a strategy and plan that get a strategy in place that's full of routines, and try and get some support on you. Not It doesn't need to be a massive support network, like I say, but uh, just someone that's there, and that you can maybe call and speak to, and go out for a coffee with, and open up a bit. But number two for me is I really wish somebody pointed out how uh, my social life um, would change, and change for the better. The instant thing um, is, you think that you're just going to lose all your friends. You're never going to go on holiday with them anymore. You're never going to see them anymore. You won't get invited anymore. And that just isn't true. When I quit, I don't think I actually knew anybody that had quit. So I was on a kind of solo journey, which a lot of the people, you discover so much. I mentioned before that I stopped drinking 2017 to 2022, then kind of got back in the bad drinking habits again, which was stupid. And now I'm back on alcohol-free living. And I just, like in the beginning, it's quite tough. There is a transition period, but I wish somebody had actually said to me that it is going to be fine. I'm meeting a good friend today, for example, for at a local pub, which is fine for me. I never get tempted, and I'll maybe just have a Guinness 0.0 and a Diet Coke, maybe some food, and that's it. And I just think that, I had that fear, like I mentioned. You're going to get left out, you're not going to get invited. But you'll be surprised how many people, first of all, can't be bothered drinking. There will be an event like a concert, or you will be going to a sports event or a work function. And when you're not drinking, they'll actually want to be with you, because they're like, I can't be bothered. Like, I genuinely can't be bothered. I can't be bothered with a hangover. I can't be bothered spending, €100, dollars, pounds, whatever it is, just on overpriced crappy beer at a concert. I'd like to remember the concert. I want to get home after this sporting event, not 10 pints down and slurring my words. Just go to work, go home, go to bed, and wake up in the morning feeling great. So, like I say, just all those thoughts in your head, they're probably just misconceptions. And I think the big worry for most people is the losing your drinking friends. But what happens is, after for the first couple of months, what I would do is I would still go to the pub on a Friday and I'd have a few non-alcohol beers, but it just gets boring once everyone's drunk. And you just slowly fade away from it and you find it boring. And it's not, you're not punching yourself going, oh, God, I wish I was up for it. I wish I was up for it today. You just genuinely find it boring. It's just something you don't do anymore. And I mentioned that in another video, it's like this is with me and it's like smoking. I walk into a shop and I just don't think about smoking. It's like when you're a wee kid, you might have played with dolls or action men and you did that when you're younger and it's like nothing, and that's what alcohol turns into. It's just this thing that you used to do that has no significance in your life. So you can easily walk into a liquor store, you can easily go into the supermarkets and walk past the booze section like I did last night. My partner was buying some wine. There's nothing in my head that wanted me to grab, and I wish someone had told me that. But like I say, your social life will change, but I think it'll all change for the better. You'll meet new people, your relationships will be more real, acquaintances that you were just kind of drinking buddies with will fall away, and some of them will stay good friends. But I think I've just got a really healthy group of friends, and I wish somebody had told me that before. The third point is around sleeping, which then results in energy. Uh, I honestly never knew how good I would feel every day after a sleep. Like even last night, I just had the deepest dream ever. You wake up maybe once during the night to do the toilet, or none, or twice, or whatever you do. But then as soon as you go back to bed, you're out. And I woke up 7 o'clock this morning, got to bed a bit later than usual last night, and I feel amazing. And I feel like, and I just never ever thought that I could feel that same way as you did when you were a little kid. When you're 8 years old and you wake up on a Saturday morning, you just jump out of bed and you're like, right, what am I doing? What we're doing today? And it just really is incredible. And then as a result of that sleep, all that energy comes. And I wish it's really, really hard because how do you tell somebody or show somebody how energetic and good they'll feel? It's impossible, unless you've got a time machine, which nobody has. And if somebody had said to me, take this injection or go in this simulator and this is how you're going to feel from now on if you quit. Not instantly, you do gradually feel better, but once you get like a month in, 3 months in, especially I remember 3 months in, I started getting deep sleeps and waking up every morning, and genuinely I was like, wow, what a sleep that was. Because all my other sleeps were shit. Waking up 20 times during the night, tossing and turning, bit of anxiety during the night. It was just absolutely horrible. And that kind of extra energy to just take on the day, and it's just amazing. And it's just something, like I say, if somebody had just been able to put me in a simulator or give me an injection and say, this is exactly how you'll sleep, this is exactly how you're going to feel, I'd have bit their hand off and I would have quit 20 years ago, because it really is incredible. And that's the third thing. And I think it's probably the best thing because you need to think about the impact on your body. I mean, you're not really sleeping properly. Maybe after 4 or 5 days, you maybe got a decent sleep here and there, but then you're, maybe drinking again at the weekend or when you're off your shift. It's not. Oh, just nailed my hit my camera there. Yeah, and that's just it's just something that, like I say, just the sleep and the energy is such a big part, and I'll probably do a separate video about it because let's say it's just something I wish I'd known, and it's something I didn't think about, and I actually remember thinking about sometimes before. Will I actually like? I remember thinking kind of like, can I feel that good? You know, can I feel that good? Um, and yeah, and like I say, I just wish I'd known some of that before, how good I would feel. And the fourth one, which is kind of a result of number three, is the mental clarity you get. I just never, again, could ever think that I'd be that mentally just switched on. It's actually incredible, and it's a result of the great sleep, I think, and obviously the no alcohol, where you wake up in the morning and you're just absolutely ready to smash the day, and it's so hard to describe. It's just like you're absolutely full of beans. You got the most amount of energy ever. You could go to the gym, you could go for a walk, you could sit read a book, and you're really into it as well. You're not just like I remember before, you go on drunken holidays and you might go to a museum or see a landmark and you're just not even there. Your body's there, but you're just like, yeah, so this is all right, I guess. But, and you're, at work as well. And that totally reduces your anxiety because you're so on the ball. You get a letter from the bank, you open it straight away, you deal with it straight away. If it's something, everything's just kind of clear. And the second time I quit boozing and went alcohol free, within about 2 weeks, I was already thinking 5 years ahead. I'd already applied for my master's degree. I was already thinking about how do I get chartered. I went and researched it. I found out that if I do my master's, I need to do a lot less work to become chartered because it's accredited courses, etc. And I remember just sitting there on the uni website, just thinking, like, this would have not happened. Absolutely not happened if I was still if I was still boozing at the weekends and binge drinking. It really is incredible. But like I say again, it's quite tough because how do you how do you give somebody that real feeling of you're gonna feel this good? You can tell people all you like, oh, and you hear people all the time, oh, I feel so good, but you kind of just think they're a bit of a bore. Nobody wants to go out and hear, oh, I've done this, and I feel so good, and I'm so energized, and you can't really conceptualize it, that well. And but if somebody, like I say, put me in a simulator, given me an injection, and said, let's do it. This is how you'll feel. I'll give you 60 seconds of how you'll feel. I would have bit their hand off again. I would have quit 20 years ago because that, like I say, that feeling. Even just now, sitting here, I'm just thinking about what I'll do today. I've already done quite a lot of stuff. The apartment's clean, all my bills are paid. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm, meeting a friend on Monday. I'm meeting a friend today. Like I say, all the laundry's done. Just absolutely incredible. So mental clarity is just a massive one for me. Uh, and another one, the final one, the fifth one, would be that I wish I wish somebody told me that the journey to get to where you are when you're sober, when you're alcohol free, it's not linear. It's not just a line that just goes like that every day, and then that's fine. There is ups and downs. The instant you see instant results basically because obviously going from hangover day to day two to day three, you're feeling slightly better, etc. But then the brain fog starts to lift. For me, after a couple of weeks. And then after a couple of weeks, you're starting to properly sleep and you're thinking, wow, this is incredible. But then, like I say, the challenge is that you start feeling great and you have what I mentioned earlier when you have so much time on your hand and you don't have routines and you have these ups and downs because you're in this transition period. And I wish somebody, when I mentioned earlier about, I was doing this kind of journey myself. So I wish somebody had told me on day one that it's not going to be linear. There's going to be ups and downs. It'll be like that. Because, like I say, there is that transition period where you're out, you're still trying to kind of fit in at the pub. You've still got drinking friends. Like I say, you've not got time. You're not used to reading a book now and again. You're not used to maybe sitting at home and cooking dinner and watching a bit of TV. You're not used to going out for walks, and everything just feels so alien. And you start questioning yourself. Oh, this is boring. It's Saturday night. Maybe I should be. Even though I didn't want to drink, and I knew I was off it. It's just the devil making work for idle hands. You're just sitting there and overthinking stuff on your couch. Is this the right decision? And should I be doing this? And but like I say, it's a really big one to kind of pass on. And I wish I'd kind of knew that before, 'cause it would have stopped a lot of stress. That remember there is a transition period, but just remember that the goal at the end is just so much better than the life you're living when you're binge drinking or you're drinking every day. It's just incredible. Just a completely different journey. But so there are five of the things I wish I knew before I started my journey. I or before quitting alcohol. I hope you got something from it, and maybe I'll dissect a few of them a bit more. But if you are struggling at the moment or you're on your journey, just keep going. It gets better and better. And I wish you all the best of luck journey. Comment if you want any feedback on any of the points, and please subscribe as well. If and like if you enjoyed the video. I'm releasing daily videos, so tune in for the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.